Empower the voices of those we serve. Support our consumers' right to end terminal suffering. Reasons to support physician assisted suicide legislation. Nasacho consumers stand to benefit from self directed care. Existing legislation and legislative efforts support adoption of current legislation. Adaptation is crucial to medical progress and the progress of Nasacho. Our primary duty is to county health officials. They're consumers in turn. Medical's consumers have a right to self directed care. All of our consumers stand to benefit from a consistent focus on self directed care. This is from lower costs to higher quality of care to higher consumer satisfaction. And when you make all three things happen at the same time, it keeps the people that you're serving pretty happy. And customer satisfaction is key. Face it, we're in a customer service industry here. We provide a service for the people, for the public. You need to make sure that customer service industry, we're serving the customer to the best of our ability. Supporting current legislation and legislative efforts. The landmark case that established states' rights in terms of physician assisted suicide was Washington versus Glucksberg, which took place in 1996. While the case allowed the state of Washington to block the attempted physician assisted suicide that was brought forth by the claimants, the people that wanted to have that all change, while they weren't able to, what they did establish in the Supreme Court was that the state had the right to say no, but the state also had the right to say yes. After that, in 1997, came the Oregon Death with Dignity Act, which was the first state to establish a Death with Dignity Act and allow physician assisted suicide. 4 or 5 states surrounding New Amsterdam have either officially enacted Death with Dignity Acts or are in the process of deciding. Those 4 states currently are New Jersey, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, and specifically New Jersey and Vermont both have Death with Dignity Acts in place. Innovation is crucial to medical and organizational progress. Organizations need to adapt in order to survive. We are no different. Recently, a local news and media outlet questioned our legitimacy and whether or not we should really be continuing because they might not think that there's any reason for us doing so. Now, in terms of that, we have to think more. Opposing legislation could be a public relations nightmare for county health officials. Why? Because you're taking away consumers' ability to have self directed care. We need to empower consumers across the board, and that's one of the biggest reasons why we need to support this legislation. Now, laws, codes of ethics, and diagnostic medical tools are living documents, subject to revision for the reason of progress. Now, some examples of that are the American Medical Association's Code of Ethics, the DSM 5, and the American with Disabilities Act. Also, medical diagnoses are constantly being updated, constantly being revised, because we're constantly learning more in terms of the field itself, and we always will be. So, one of the biggest things that people are going to, one of the biggest arguments against this is that it is against the codes of the American Medical Association as well as against the code of as well as against the Hippocratic Oath. Now, another thing to mention, the Hippocratic Oath has not really been used to swear people in across the board in terms of medical professionals since the 1920s. And the Code of Ethics is constantly going to be subject to review, and it currently does need to be adapted. Now, support physician assisted suicide. Again, Nasacho and our consumers stand to benefit from self directed care. It supports existing legislation and legislative efforts, and adaptation is key to medical and organizational survival and progress. Any questions?